Hi, I'm Jazmin, and this is Not Another PD. It's for helping professionals who are tired of theoretical training that doesn't translate to the work you actually do. Here, we talk boundaries, leadership, systems, and how to protect your well-being while doing complex work every day. I'm so glad you're here. 23. This is the first solo episode that I have recorded in 2026, so I'm really excited to welcome you back. And this is such an important topic that I thought it needed its own episode and not be something that's discussed as an afterthought, and that is working from home environments. It may surprise you, or maybe not so, that around 6.7 million Australians work from home. For some of us, we may solely work from home. We may have a hybrid arrangement in which we work from home several days a week and then from an office or clinic the other days a week. For myself, currently, I completely work from home, but I have worked in many roles, particularly in government, in which it was a hybrid way of working, in which I was working from home 2 to 3 days a week and then in the office the remainder of the week. And I never really stopped to think about until more recently, as I've been setting up my new home office, is that the environments that we work from, whether it's our office or clinic environment or from home, they do actually have an impact on us and also our feelings of psychological safety at work. And I certainly didn't get things right myself the first time when thinking about my work from home environment. So, in this episode, I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of the disaster working conditions that I created for myself that then became my default way of working. And then also the hidden impact on your work from home environment, really not creating a feeling of psychological safety and not having boundaries around where your work begins and ends and where your personal life begins and ends. We're going to be unpacking all of that all in this episode. So we'll see how we go for time. What I really remember during periods of working from home is that there were certain patterns that were really present for me, but I used to think that it was only me, that I'm the only one who struggled with some of these work from home arrangements. But over the years, I've spoken to many other helping professionals, many colleagues, and also many leaders who tell a similar story of not taking care or not prioritizing their physical health when they work from home. And one of the main things that I used to do is when I was feeling medically unwell and I was too unwell to get in my car and drive to the office, I would send a message to my team manager at the time and say, I'm not feeling well, I'll just work from home today. And that just became my default position. I'm not feeling well, I will just work from home. As I moved up into people management roles, I saw this also in fellow people managers, but also in my team, that same pattern of I'm not feeling well, I will just work from home. And the thing about doing that is that you don't miraculously feel better or recover when you're working from home. In fact, I found that not taking care of my physical health actually had greater implications later on. So not taking that one day off when I really wasn't fit to work in any capacity, whether it was from home or in an office or clinic setting, then I ended up being sick for 1 or 2 weeks because I kept pushing myself, thinking that working from home is somewhat of a rest. And for those of you listening who work from home and you can relate to the back-to-back online meetings, the constant flow of emails coming through, the group chat's constantly pinging all day. There's actually no respite. There's no opportunity to just walk up to the local cafe with a colleague. You're just stuck behind your screen all day. So it's definitely not any sort of respite from an office environment. We just don't have the daily commute. So one of the things I was noticing about myself when I was working from home is that the daily commute of driving to and from the office was actually beneficial to improve my clarity of mind. I had time to listen to my music, listen to a podcast, listen to audio messages that my sister and I send each other audio messages, constantly throughout the day. So not having that built-in commute time did actually impact me because I was essentially waking up, getting ready, dropping my daughters off at school or childcare, and then just starting work with no me time. I noticed feeling less emotionally regulated and less equipped for the challenges of the day. Even though I'd worked from home consistently since around 2019, I never actually took the time to set up a suitable and appropriate work from home environment. I started a new role and I never set up the time. I never spent the time to actually set up a work from home environment. So I didn't have a self-contained office. So essentially I was working out of any location that was available in my house. So I would sometimes work from my dining room table, sometimes from my garage, which was, as you can probably imagine, excessively hot in summer and in winter, absolutely freezing. That was when all my family were home for some reason and I had confidential meetings, so I had to go into my garage. I did have a small desk set up in the corner of our lounge room, and there was no door that separated the lounge room from my little corner desk. So it just felt like my work started to infiltrate every area of my house. And not to mention, there were definitely times in which I worked from my bedroom. I mean, virtual backgrounds are genius, right? Because you actually don't know where someone is when they're meeting with you. They could be in their car, they could be in their garage like I was. That's the thing. It's too convenient. And some of the other, I guess, hidden impacts of working from home, if we don't really think about it, could be the tendency to overwork. So to start working a little bit earlier, to sit and eat at your desk because there's no colleagues to actually speak to, there's no one around, so you might just be tempted to eat at your desk. There was one particular moment when I was on a Zoom meeting in my garage because my whole family was home, my two daughters, my husband, everyone was home, and it was a very, very hot day. The only place in which I could actually physically lock myself away and not be disturbed, and I had a very confidential client care team meeting. So I remember locking myself in the garage. I had a fan, but the fan, when you're in a room so hot, the fan just circulates the hot air. So there wasn't any respite from the heat. And I remember sitting on one of those fold-out tables that people use for picnics or for barbecues. I had my laptop on this really old, shabby fold-out table with this fan that was just circulating the hot air. And I was on an outside chair, so I didn't even have a comfortable chair. I had just taken my laptop and just moved into the garage for this meeting. And the whole meeting, all I could think about was, I'm so hot. I just have never felt so uncomfortably hot. It was for about an hour, and I think it went over time, and I was getting more and more restless, agitated. By the end of it, I don't know if everyone else in the virtual room could visibly see the sweat dripping down my face. Why am I working out of this space? Given that I know that I work from home several days a week, why have I never intentionally set an appropriate work from home space that I feel creates a safe and secure environment? How can I actually create a feeling of both psychological safety in the work from home environment, but also being physically comfortable? Because I certainly didn't feel psychologically safe locked in a really hot garage in the middle of summer. And I certainly didn't feel physically comfortable either, because no amount of water that I guzzled through that entire care team meeting made up for the fact that I was sitting there sweating, sticking to the chair, and just so incredibly uncomfortable. When we work in work from home environments that are so psychologically unsafe and physically uncomfortable, it is likely to have an impact on the delivery of the services for your client group. When that's happening in the background, it's really hard to just turn off all of your own basic needs and just solely focus on someone else. It's incredibly difficult. And I don't think I managed it well as I reflect back, which is why I'm sharing it with you now. So hopefully, if you're listening and you can resonate that and you're still operating like this, there is another way. And recently I relocated to another city with my family. So it was a big move. And one of the things I did, I was really clear on my work from home office space and actually setting up a space that meets my needs. I'm still in the process of setting it up. It's been, I think, around 2 months since I started setting up my new home office, and it's almost finished. So I'm almost ready to show you all on social media how I've set it up really, really deliberately to be essentially the opposite of every other work from home environment that I subjected myself to over the past, 5.5 years. And I am so passionate about the working from home environment and the positive impact it can have on us that I actually created it's totally free, a work from home environment self audit. I will put the link into the show notes of how you can download that. Again, it's totally free. It looks at different aspects of your environment, from everything to your actual physical setup, your any sensory needs. So essentially what I did was I looked at the greatest challenges that I had previously in my earlier work from home environments. And I looked at, okay, this is a problem that I had, or this is a concern I had with my previous working from home environment, and how can I shift that in my new environment? One of the main areas of that posed a challenge for me was the climate, or the lack of climate control, particularly when I was needing to work out of the garage, and also even working from several communal spaces in our previous house. We didn't have centralized air conditioning, so I was always at an uncomfortable temperature. One of the essentials for me was thinking, oh, how can I manage the climate? And given that I've moved to the Gold Coast, it's a hot tropical climate, or subtropical climate, I think they call it, but it's hot weather conditions. So it was essential then for me to ensure that I have both a fan and air conditioning in my home office. And I now am really precious of having a space that's just for me to work in. Although my daughters also love the home office I've created for myself and will sometimes infiltrate it, but that's okay. I'll sometimes find a stray coloring book or pencils, or other random things, or a reader folder or something like that. But largely it's my space. And when I work from home, everyone else in my household is at their work and school. So I actually do now have a sacred space to work from home. One of the other things I was really intentional about is having not just a desk chair, but also having other spaces in my home office. We just sit throughout the day. We just sit in front of our screens in the same chair, staring at the screen in online meetings back to back throughout the day. If we eat away from our desk, That's amazing because many of us, when we work from home, we just sit and eat at our desk and continue sifting through emails or looking up resources during what should be our lunch break. And let's just remind ourselves here that lunch breaks are unpaid. So you're really just giving your employer 30 to 45 minutes, depending how long your lunch break is, of your time for free. You're just volunteering your time if you eat at your desk and continue working. And I'm sure that if you wanted to work in a voluntary capacity, then you would volunteer outside of your work life with a cause you're really passionate about. And if we're going to be spending unpaid time supporting a charity, I'm sure it wouldn't be giving that extra unpaid lunch break back to your employer. So please, everyone, please don't do that. That was also me. That's why I can say, from someone who used to eat at my desk, you're really not doing yourself any favors at all. So for me, having another space in my office that I can actually hang out in, that's not just my desk chair positioned directly in front of my screen. So I actually got like a cane chair with a nice cushion on it. In my home office, I really wanted a nice carpeted floor. So if I wanted to take my shoes off and have a sensory experience of having my feet on a carpeted surface. So I got myself a nice rug. And something else is I love physical movement, whether I love reformer Pilates, going to the gym and doing strength workouts with the weights, walking, but I also love just stretching. So in my home office, I also have a Pilates mat. In between online meetings, I'm actually going to start doing some stretches on my new Pilates mat or yoga mat. I think it's a bit thicker than a Pilates mat, so I think it's probably a yoga mat. So there's a few deliberate changes that I have made recently with my home office, which, as I mentioned, it's still a work in progress, but I can't wait to share like a bit of a tour inside my home office. Not everyone has the opportunity to have a completely separate home office. There's definitely some deliberate changes you can make to the work from home environment that you have. That's essentially what my work from home environment self audit is all about. It's looking at, well, how is your current environment either supporting you to sort of feel psychologically safe in that environment to be able to do your best work, or how could it potentially be hindering you from being able to do your best work and actually feel that you have a suitable place to do your work throughout the day. There's definitely some small changes that you can make to your home environment when you start consciously thinking about it, and also when you start to think about that hidden impact of not making some of these deliberate changes to your work environment, then you'll see even making small tweaks can have a significantly positive impact on just your mood at the end of the workday. And I know for myself, when I didn't take a break, when I was just stuck in my sad little corner desk in the nook of our lounge room at our old house, I would feel like I was constantly on. I was always on throughout the day. And then my daughters would be home from school, and then I'm on again because then I'm in parent duty, then doing the dinner and evening routines and all those things that are our life responsibilities that don't stop or pause when we've had a bad day. And from what I learned working as a social worker and in different government roles for close to 10 years, is that the emotional toll that our direct client work can actually have on us, it just adds to that additional pressure and stress when we have a work from home environment that just compounds that stress. Things such as not having any privacy to be able to do your work, not having any separation between your work and your home, working through lunch, just overworking when we actually intentionally design a work from home environment that enhances our own well-being and feeling of psychological safety in the difficult work that we do, in my experience, always a positive thing. I'll bring this episode to a close, but I just want you to think about How do you feel at the end of the workday when you work from home? Do you feel constantly on when you work from home? And do you have any rituals that help you at the end of the workday when you work from home that signals, I finish my workday now and now I'm in my personal life? And have a look at your work from home environment. Is there any small changes that you think you could make now? For example, if you get really hangry throughout the day, can you prepare some, fruit and vegetables, or, veggie sticks and dip to have at your desk along with your water bottle and a backup water bottle? If you're like me and you talk a lot, and most of us in our profession, it's part of our role that we need to talk a lot, don't just have your water bottle, have a backup water bottle there so that you're not leaving yourself dehydrated and without food. So think about, how do you feel at the end of the workday? If you enjoy journaling, you can write down some of those feelings that come to mind when you finish your work from home day, and see if there's any tweaks that you can make to your environment to actually improve that feeling that you have at the end of the workday. If you'd like to have a bit of support around doing an audit, a self audit of your work from home environment, just jump onto my website. I'll put the link in the show notes. I would love to hear from you if you found it helpful, and if you have any ideas of how to improve your work from home environment, please also let me know. Thank you for joining me on Not Another PD. If this episode was helpful and you'd like to find out more, you'll find ways to work with me in the show notes. And if there's a topic you would like covered, or someone you think should be on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Remember, clear boundaries don't just protect our clients, they protect us too.